Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our CPSI Lunch and Learn educational series. Today, we are going to be talking about creating a military hub with Dallas Kratzer. So, welcome, everyone. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to Dallas and we'll kind of get the show on the road.
All right. Well, good morning, Steve. Good morning, Stacy. It's great to be with you guys again. I was with you back in August, and hopefully you gleaned some good stuff out of that. Today, we're going to talk about something a little different, um, but yet still in the same vein. It's all about veteran service stuff. And this is a framework that I've been working on for some time. Steve and I have talked about this. Stacy and I have talked about this as a way to help campuses think about the things they need to do in building their veteran service hub. Okay. So feel free to ask questions as you go along. There may be some things that are unclear. There are questions or suggestions that you might add. We only have about 10 slides today, so it's going to go pretty quickly and jump in where you feel free. Now, the reason I'm doing it in not in the presenter mode is so that I can keep tabs on the chat to see if there are any questions or comments that are being made. Steve and I are tag teaming this today, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so here it is. This veteran hub that we've talked about is designed to work in tandem with what you're going to be doing with the Collegiate Purple Star program. As a matter of fact, it's a precursor, if you will, to the Collegiate Purple Star idea. And the the thing we want to look at is how we take our campuses from military friendly to military ready, creating that ecosystem that serves our veteran community in a way that will make sure that we hit all the things that they need, but yet not overload our veteran services centers with doing things that aren't really in their lane. So the reason we're looking at this is there are a lot of times that folks are concerned, what do we do in the way of veteran services? How do we manage this? Well, the DOE gives us some ideas of what looks like a good or a successful veteran site at a campus. So the whole framework was built around these 8 key indicators, and we'll match them up so that way you can see where they go in this framework. A little bit about the framework. First of all, this was developed back about 4 years ago. Barbara Kent at uh, EKU, Eastern Kentucky University, she and I started working on what we need to do to help her campus to get better at the veteran community. Barb was the veteran services officer there. She did a great job. She did a lot of wonderful stuff. So much so that Purdue Global hired her away from Kentucky, and now she's doing these great things for them. The system itself is a series of interconnected bubbles and how everything is related. You'll notice everything has a dotted line. In flowcharting 101, we talk
Thank
about
you. One
flood
second. Let
lines
me turn my volume.
and the dash lines. Well, in this month,
It's a lunch and learn webinar. It's what
Monica,
is it?
hey Monica, your mic is on. Oh, there you go. Thank you. All right. Um, the dash lines are intended to show that there's a relationship with these different sections, but not a hard line that there's a report out because many veteran service campus centers are connected either under student services or maybe the provost. Each campus decides where they want to put this. So, with that in mind, there'll be a dash line connected to the different spots. The overall ecosystem, the center part, the green part is the center itself. And if you hit all of 8 of these, you will turn everything else green and be one of those DOE centers of excellence. So by having the ecosystem, you're going to meet that first requirement of the DOE, creating a culture of trust and connectedness. The second thing that you're going to see there is that you're going to have a sustainable program that you can make sure that um, as you're transitioning folks in and out of the veteran services area, because we do have turnover, every campus has turnover, that there will be a consistent pattern of sustainability for the veterans, but also for our leadership. So that way the leadership doesn't struggle with, okay, now what do we do now that we're having turnover? And then the fourth standard for DOE, that centralized location. This is a place that our veterans can go and say, who do I need to talk to at XYZ? Let's say it's scholarships. Well, you as the Veteran Center uh, would be able to say, these are the people you need to reach out to, not that you have to have the information yourself. And in doing this, building out this ecosystem like this, that center part, a couple of documents that I used is this one from SVA, Student Veterans of America. If you don't have a chapter, I would encourage you to look at getting one. They really help us engage with our veteran community. But also the military culture uh, report that came out from ETS sponsor. It helps us to teach our staff and faculty or guide our staff and faculty in understanding the military culture a little bit more because we're different. We really are. As I've mentioned in the past, I'm a veteran. I did about 35 years in the Air Force and have talked to many veterans across the country and with SVA and such. And this one thing that we see often is that we're a unique population on the campus. Many people aren't quite sure how to relate to us. So this gives them the opportunity. Another area that I would recommend for you to help your staff and faculty to better understand the military community is through Psych Armor. Psych Armor is a great program that will allow you to view video vignettes. Psych Armor's mission is to help educators and employers to better understand the military culture. And they have this one slide vignette that I like. It's called 15 Things Veterans Would Like for You to Know. Go out, take a look at their stuff. It's free. So it really helps out a lot. So let's start moving more into the model.
Be
Right?
part of it. If you let me know
Sure.
what you have, I can see if I can add any.
Someone else has their mic. There you go. All right. Steve, you must be on it on turning those mics off. Thank you. The next part of the model. You can see it there in yellow at the top, campus and community partners. In the DOE model, it talks about how do we work with those agencies outside of our academic environment to connect, to make sure that we're serving them the best. How do we have staff on campus situated or prepared to engage with veterans? So there are a lot of different things that you can do. Again, going back to educating our staff and faculty. There are a couple documents out there. The VA puts out a great document on how many veterans are in your community, how many are getting veteran financing for education. Plus, every year, the military puts out a document called the military demographics. It tells you how many not only veterans, but active duty people, Guard and Reserve individuals, family members are in your state to see where you might be able to reach out to them and engage them. Lots of different state agencies. The Veteran Services Office needs to be aware of these, but doesn't need to be have a hard line to know everything that they do. They just need to know that they're available. Probably one of the biggest resources that I see a lot of folks, particularly in states like Indiana, they sometimes forget about the National Guard and ROTC programs, not only college ROTC programs, but junior ROTC programs. These are places that you can connect and grow relationships to be able to serve your veteran community. Now, here in Kentucky, and I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, we have a joint executive committee on veteran organizations. Every quarter, 22 veteran organizations in the state come together to talk about how they're serving the veteran population. Find out who does that in Indiana because most states have it and connect with those folks. That's how you can engage your community as a veteran services office person to see how you can build relationships and serve the community overall, the population. Another part of the dynamic of the 8 key indicators are that sustainability, but also number 8, which is to develop systems that ensure the sustainability of practices. And this is where I think we get into the military crosswalks, military credit for prior learning. How do we establish programs within our universities and colleges to best utilize military credit recommendations, but also understand how to help the civilian sector to see that military members have great credit that they can bring, workplace learning, leadership, soft skills, or durable skills. And then we can also recognize that for credit. Now in Indiana, we're doing a great job on this. The CHE folks are.
I'm trying to unmute this.
Oh,
Sorry.
oh, there you go, Cassandra. You're in there now. So, have you got a question?
No, I'm sorry. I was talking to a student. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. So, in doing this, creating those credit for prior learning crosswalks, both for the military and for the civilian side, you're going to look at how you will engage with your deans and your chairs to create these degree pathways. Like I said, Indiana is neck deep into this process right now. You guys are one of the leading states in this area. So this is fantastic. And you're using the ACE recommendations to grow out your program. It also involves looking at portfolios and how you might use those as a crosswalk and creating that framework using the tools available. So more to follow on that in Indiana. It's really a great project, and I'm glad to be part of it. So with our faculty, that is sustainability, but also professional development. The best way that we can help sustain programs like our military crosswalks and credit for prior learning is by having professional development for our staff. Again, this is something that Indiana is doing really well. You guys are hitting it out of the park with your Collegiate Purple Star for Indiana. So the CPSI is a great idea. This dovetails right in with it. But some of the training that you need to look at doing with your staff and faculty are helping them to understand how to assess military credit for prior learning, which will then help them also assess civilian credit for prior learning. Look at how your folks might be able to become faculty assessors for programs like ACE, the American Council on Education. And you as a campus center don't have to do these things, but you need to know who does it on your campus and be that rallying call to say, hey, look, we need to be doing professional development in these areas. We need to help our faculty and staff to understand the Joint Services transcript and how ACE builds out their program. Plus, this is something new. It's going to come out here really soon. I'll put it on the slides in the future. Connect with community of practices that share or are like-minded in the way of military connected students. And this fall, matter of fact, in about 2 weeks, I get to be part of a team for the Council on Adult and Experiential Learning that will launch a military credit for prior learning community of practice. And we want to help people get engaged in that so we can share information and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Get your staff and faculty to be involved in this as well. As we move on around to recruitment, the number 6 talks about how do we collect information? How do we collect the data? How do we track what's going on? Because it is about return on investment. And in this area, we need to have a lot of different data points. You're going to see something come out from CHE here in the next week or so about how do you collect data on your current military folks. How are you engaging with ACE? How are you recognizing VA credit and funding and how that happens? Because the important part here and what DOE is trying to get to is we need to count so that we know that it's effective. Persistency, retention, and graduation rates are those measures. And what I've seen out across the country, a lot of places are not counting this. They count it in the greater population, but we need to be very specific. And this is where the Veteran Center can help the campus to recognize that, hey, these are important data points that we need to help our community and our veteran services folks to understand how to better serve. So there is a project involved that may even elevate this significantly more across the nation. So if you get out in front of it, then you won't be playing catch up if this legislative action goes in place. But it's about connecting the use of military credit recommendations to GI Bill resources, VA resources, and the tracking that needs to go on there. So we want to track this because it also helps our leadership on campus to see that this is a population worth investing in, worth having a center that is fully functional, providing for the needs of this unique affinity group, and can also be a model for how we can do this for other groups as well. And then financing. If you're in a veteran service center right now, you know as well as I do, this is a challenge. How do we make sure that our veterans are fully engaged, getting the financial assistance that they need? What do they do when they run out of GI Bill? What if they have their dependents using the GI Bill? So this is really important. And the thing again that I've seen across the country is we tend to make our certifying officials the veteran center coordinator. And I'm just going to say that's challenging because the certifying officials have a huge job already. And we don't need to add more onto that. It is a finance responsibility. So, helping the campus finance to understand that the certifying official isn't always the best person to be running the Veteran Service Center because of the workload that they have and what's going on. It also, in finance, it's connected back to admissions because we're also looking at how do we help identify the scholarships that are available out there. There are numerous state level scholarships, military tuition assistance, guard tuition assistance, other programs that can help facilitate this through like SkillBridge and career skills program, which are internships. But while they're on those internships, they can take classes at our schools, and there may be a tuition assistance that goes on there. Understanding how all that works together, and of course, there's always that GI Bill certifying a process that we need to go through. But how do we also engage employer tuition assistance? And then the last thing, the governance. With governance, it is all about putting the practices into place and the policies into place that will allow us to have an effective program. DOE key number 8. This is so critical. This is why right now in Indiana, we're working really hard to establish what the policy and practices look like for military credit for prior learning. At your campus, what can your students or potential students see related to your policies and practices? How does this line up with regional accreditation? Are we getting ourselves into a sticky wicket where we're accepting credit and maybe we shouldn't be? Well, we need to go back to our regional accreditation and say, what are your policies? And you'll find most of them, including SACs, are very friendly toward military credit recommendations. They give us a lot of latitude. And because of that, we need to establish good policies within our own organizations to be able to explain why we do what we do. And some of those standards, of course, the DOE standard, but also TAIL has 10 standards for credit for prior learning, which can easily be applied to military credit for prior learning. So this whole hub, we've gone all the way around the circle now, talked about how all these things are connected. The one thing I really want to say is your veteran services folks don't need to be an expert on all these things. You have the campus resources, but it's identifying the dotted lines on who are you going to talk to. And the next thing that you might want to do if you want to adopt something like this is to start filling in those bubbles with the names that you'll contact, expanding those to say, all right, if I'm going to look at financing scholarships, who do I need to call, and have that number written down. If you're going to look at faculty and staff development, who will lead the training for different things? For example, when it comes to military CPL, some campuses expect their campus center for veterans to be the one that talks about military CPL. If there's a question about the JST, go to your campus veteran center, and they'll explain it to you. Well, that's really not the best place. because the registrar and transfer services are the folks who know that best, and probably even more so would be your academic advisors. But we need to help them understand that community because they don't work with this group every day unless you have somebody that's specifically assigned to it. So if you hit all 8 of these, what you end up with is a program at your campus that's military ready, ready to serve the community, and will allow you then to move to that third step, okay, of being military engaged. Because if you do all these things, then you're prepared for veterans, and you need to get out there and say, hey, we're ready for you. Come let us help you. All right. Steve, that's all I got, buddy. I think that covered it all. I'd like to open it up to questions if there are any, or comments. Please feel free. I'm not the only one that does this stuff and knows it well. Some of your campuses are doing a great job.
Hey, the floor is open. Okay, Phil, you can put comments in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask Dallas directly.
And if you think this is just a waste of time, please share.
I would also add that if you don't have any questions, maybe you're doing components of this on your campus, and maybe you can share your own experiences that you've learned that we could share with the rest of the group.
That's a great point, because this is a framework, and we want to add things to it that'll make it more meaningful to others. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Go ahead, Anthony.
So one of the questions I have, because one of the things I struggle with, especially with CPL, is I've gotten mixed reviews on whether or not ACE credits go towards the financial aid 180 credit barrier. So one of the things I struggle with is recommending veterans to, apply for every AC credit that they can possibly get, because it might limit their total financial aid eligibility in the long run. Do you have any thoughts on that, or ways that you look around that or assist with that?
Okay, I bet there's somebody on here that can jump right in. Morgan, is that what you're going to jump on?
Yeah, Anthony, really excellent question. And for those in the room that are fostering these conversations, this is really important to capture. If a service member is receiving financial aid, there's very strict requirements as to how much aid you'll get as a result of the financial aid program, for a lack of a better term. I asked what this would mean to service members when they automatically get additional credits added to that plan of trajectory, and it may kick them to, for example, a different classification as from being a freshman or being a sophomore. So the issue is with requirements for financial aid and the potential for adding those credits and what that means to the financial aid package. So once these credits have been added to a service member's plan of study, they can do an adjustment of their financial aid package, and the service member could end up owing money back because of the reclassification. Now, we have found at Purdue University that you can appeal this decision and explain exactly that. I don't know if that is a Purdue only process, but I suspect that's perhaps a similar process on other campuses. I don't know, but I did not know that you could immediately appeal that decision, the recoupment of your GI, of your financial aid, and just explain the situation. And so when we've been communicating this to service members, we've been prefacing this with, this may affect your financial aid package. If you receive financial aid, this has a potential to put you into a different classification. Here's information on those requirements, and here's how to potentially be prepared to appeal that decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so both Anthony and Morgan, you guys have made my point. If you have this hub, you can write out to the side on finances and scholarship, who do you need to call when somebody comes in with a GI Bill question? All right. That's the key here, because sometimes when you're on a campus, you just don't know who, but now, it's going to be those folks in the admissions office and the finance office to help you advise your folks. But your academic advisors can help them with this too. So make those connections. Uh, the certifying officials can help you on that. This is also part of the reason why Indiana has made it a priority to help educate our campuses on how best to serve the community. If you give them all the credit that comes on the ACE recommendation, you could hurt your folks. You need to be selective on which ones you bring in and apply to their degree program, which is a big push of what we're doing right now. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Anthony. Other questions or comments? Now, I'm a faculty member and I'm used to asking questions to people who don't want to ask questions. Okay. So I can wait.
Well, Dallas, I have a question for you. It's just more based on your experience. But when you describe this ecosystem and how complex it is, and it goes into so many different areas at an institution, and you just made a recommendation to kind of create contact, information for these different people. How are other institutions just starting the process? Did they form committees, or did one person just say, I'm going to tackle this myself? What's your kind of experiences out there?
So what I see most often, and I'd mentioned a little bit about this earlier, it's the certifying officials. They're the ones who all this gets pushed to them, and they could be in the finance department, but yet because they're handling the GI Bill, people go, oh, well, you're our GI Bill person, so that makes you the veteran person. And they will operate from there. It's something that just happens. And then eventually somebody will go, oh, wait, it needs to be more than that. And then they start building it out. Once you start building it out, you can see the need for even more, because the Veteran Services Hub can be one or two people. As you grow campuses that have a lot of veteran connected students, it's going to expand. One that we did recently, and Barbara Kent did a great job at EKU, but also another university, their big issue was they did not have a veteran services center. All right. The state helped them to build that center, that building, that location. And then they started recognizing how many veterans they had and how they could attract more veterans, because veterans talk, service members talk, and they brought more people in. An example I like to use is Barbara. When she first got to EKU and started identifying all these different aspects, she was a party of one. And now they have a good staff, very connected with the registrar, transfer services folks. Their population, their veteran population went up about 300 people. They went from 1,200 to 1,500 over a 3-year period. Now, that also means that they had people that graduated out, so more came to fill in those that graduated out, and it increased above that additionally. And I think we can draw some lines back to the fact that she grew that center. They started identifying credit recommendations and how it could be used within the departments. And she became quite a force to be reckoned with at EKU before she moved on. This other school, it is a Kentucky school because I'm close to it and I was able to work with it. They did the same thing. They didn't realize how significant their veteran population was until they started looking at it. And now they're able to engage that community even more through this service center. And they even had an ROTC, 2 ROTCs on campus, but yet didn't recognize the value of that. Morgan, I want to ask you a question. You're at Purdue, okay? What's going on there? How are you guys doing with your veteran engagement? Are you the veteran services coordinator on your campus?
Yes, so I guess my official title is Director of the Veteran and Military Success Center. And then we have an assistant director, and then we have 5 certifying officials.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
yes. So together, that's our kind of our how we organize things. The certifying officials strictly do, I mean, their work is strictly certifying education benefits, federal tuition assistance, that kind of thing. And I, as a director, do oversee a lot of that process. But then the other side is completely program outcomes, operations, events, that kind of thing.
So how
Sorry,
long
did
have you
that,
guys,
did
yeah,
that
that
answer your
answers,
question?
it does. So how long have you guys been doing it that way?
Okay, so in the beginning, so we've officially been open for 10 years. And our office was opened because a group of students were trying to figure out how to file their benefits all by themselves. And yes, and it was a group of student veterans, and they advocated for professional staff, and they ultimately got a professional staff. But at the time, our certifying official was located within the registrar's office. So they made the case back then that they should be connected. The certifying official should be within the vet center. And so it all kind of happened at one point. There was an official advocate, for lack of a better word, a professional advocate for military affiliated students, plus the certifying official. And we have since then just grown and grown and grown. So that's kind
And
of where
what's the return on investment? Sounds like it's been worth it because they keep funding you guys, right?
they do.
So there you go, Steve. I mean, can't get a better story than that.
Does anybody have any other questions for Dallas or any of your colleagues?
Let me ask one more question then. Does this model resonate? Is it worth talking about? Now, somebody's got to have an answer to that. Go ahead, Sarah.
So the best way that I can kind of describe how I've been doing it at Ivy Tech Lafayette is make friends, get out of your office. So I have a lot of these green marks and checks and everything because I work with my deans, I work with my program people. I'm in admissions, but I work with financial aid. So I have educated myself, but then also educated them on where I am. So when they encounter a question or a concern from a student, they kind of know where to kind of go and to cross into, because I'm not going to fully understand everything perfectly
There you
and
go.
how everything works and accreditation and things like that. Like that is their expertise, but I need to lean on it just the same as they need to lean on my expertise.
Right.
So that's truly it. Those of us that were in the military, we all learned to network to get things done. And I pull on that skill from the Navy and just I've done it at my college. And that's how I've really and truly created this without really having a word for what I created.
Right. So then this resonates with you. These are the things that we should be doing, the bases we should be touching. That was a question.
Short answer, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Others? Go
I mean,
ahead,
one of
Andrew.
the things I've really seen come out of our vet center is just the community that's created. I mean, I've been here since 2018. I've seen 2 marriages spawn out of our vet center just by going out there for an hour. 4 of our 5 alumni Hall of Fame are veterans themselves. So it's crazy to see because a lot of that loyalty that they bring from the military, they bring back to the campus. So if you treat your vets well, they'll treat you well. And
Right.
not only that, but then they also, I mean, one of the things that we've seen is that over the years, I mean, we've almost become a slight recruiting center to where people come to our vet center to find out about the military over talking to a recruiter.
Mhm.
Which then overall, helps us get, more students, especially in the National Guard and Reserves. It's crazy to see how it's played out. And then just the overall support of the campus and stuff. I mean, given it's hard being a 1-person department and handling all that, and then along the way, you might find that your office can do more. Like for instance, not only do I do veteran services, but I also do family services simultaneously because a lot of my vets are also parents. So
Sure.
just that overlap, and then finding those, niche things that you don't really think about every day, that that the university ends up seeing that they need a need for in the long run.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well, I'll do a final shout out if anybody has any questions for Dallas or any comments, anything they'd like to share with the group. With that said, we'll kind of let everybody get back to their lunchtime.
I have a quick
Oh, yes,
question.
go ahead.
Sorry about that. Listen, we had a form sent out by one of our vice chancellors, just requesting campus contact name and campus contact emails, in regards to some of the categories that we're working on, and the core requirements, marketing, communications, admissions, enrollment, so on and so forth. Is there a page on the work group site that has the campus representative name in there? I know there's something in the files section of the Teams chat where we might be able to get that insight for our campus. Uh-oh, I hear silence. No one knows what I'm talking about.
I'm waiting for Steve.
It's a good question. We haven't. Is your institution responding to an email they received, or are they just trying to develop their own internal?
I believe they're responding to
hub?
an email. I just want to make sure I can make sure whatever we have posted, because I want to put the right individual where I can locate that information.
I don't think Dawn has sent anything out yet. Dallas, has she? About
Okay, you know what? That's okay. I just got an email from one of my colleagues, so I think we're in a good place. Never mind. I just figured with everybody here, I'll throw a question out there and see if it's stuck.
Right. So, this is one of those things, Taylor, that we need to look at as we're working through the veteran program on this task force that is an extension from the veteran task force. We are identifying CPL coordinators, and that's on a Google site that we're using right now, which will eventually become out there for everyone to be able to see it on who the CPL coordinator is, who the military coordinator might be. So
Right.
yeah, that's important. I think that, Steve, that might be a good takeaway to think about how do we represent that on your Collegiate Purple Star page.
making a note.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Morgan, I saw you jump back in there. Okay.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody attending today. The next Lunch and Learn is going to be on November the 20th. It is going to be a roundtable. So right now we have Stephen Gooden from the National Guard. He's going to talk about resources that are available. So as you guys are going through the CPSI process, he may have some connections, or you may be able to work with him on some things. We have Dawn Busick. She is a consultant with TPMA, and she's going to talk about data. So she's going to talk to you guys about where to find military data and how to use it to better tell your story. And I'm working on a couple leads to have someone talk about the end of the Collegiate Purple Star part, which is the career. Now that we've got them through our institution, how do we prepare them to go out and find a job? So we're going to try to see if we can find some individuals to talk to that as well. So that's kind of what we have coming up. Open for other ideas. Please feel free to shoot me an email if you have some thoughts. But if not, we will see everybody on November the 20th. And I appreciate everybody attending today. Dallas, thank you very much.
Thank you for letting me come and chat a bit. So see y'all. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
And Steve, you want to stop the recording?
Yes, as soon as I find that little magic button. Stop recording. There we go.